From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. But as the riper should by time decease, his tender air might bear his memory. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feedst thy light's flame with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies, thyself thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring, within thine own bud buryest thy content, and tender churl makest waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by the grave and thee. Welcome to Shakespeare's Sonnets. My name is Thomas. Welcome to Reading Renaissance. This is the first video of 154 videos, one at a time, looking at Shakespeare's masterpiece, his sonnets. The first rule of understanding sonnets is understanding that sonnets are highly structured. 4 parts, 3 quatrains, and 1 heroic couplet. If you want to know what the poem means, you got to figure out what the quatrains are doing. From quatrain 1, we have fairest creatures and increase, which brings us to the main purpose of sonnets 1 through 18, which are known beautifully as the procreation sonnets. And what a beautiful idea. Pro, meaning for, and creation. Let's bring more beautiful people into the world, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. Of course, never die brings us to really what is the fundamental conflict in the entire set of sonnets. Here it is, right here. Love versus death. And love is messy because love is a human thing and humans are messy and we mess things up all the time. Death is not messy. It's pretty straightforward. At some point, you will no longer exist as a living being here on Earth, and that's determined by time. But humans, as being humans, we love the idea of immortality. And that is what Shakespeare is communicating through the procreation sonnets 1 through 18, is that somehow we could make ourselves never die if we can simply reproduce by creating more people that look like us. But as the riper should by time decease, his tender heir is your child, his child in this case. And we'll talk about these pronouns as we get deeper into these sonnets. But Q1, that's what we have in Q1. Quatrain 1, have children because you're going to die. But here we have in quatrain 2, the problem. Remember how I've said over here that love is messy? Well, love is messy because it's a human thing, and we wouldn't have any sonnets if everything was easy and clean. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feedst thy light's flame with substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies, thyself thy full, to thy too sweet self too cruel. So you, person who I'm addressing this sonnet to, which is another point that I think is important to get into this very first video, that a sonnet is a private communication. It's a private communication between the poet-speaker, and so these are Shakespeare's sonnets, so sometimes we say Shakespeare, but is it really Shakespeare? No, not really. It's a character that he invented. Does it have a lot of biographical or autobiographical? Maybe. We don't know. It's interesting. We think about it. But part of the form is it's a one-way communication that comes from the speaker to the beloved. And what does beloved mean? Beloved in what way? These are the mysteries of the sonnets that we will get deeper and deeper into as we move through sonnets 2 through 154. We have a lot of work to do. I'm going to try to do one of these every day, a sonnet a day. I know that by the time I get to 154, I will be a different human. So you're contracted to your own bright eyes. You're in love with yourself. You are burning up yourself because you are too self-absorbed, and because you're too self-absorbed, you're cruel because you will never have this, and your rose will die, and that is not right. That thou art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring. Within thine own bud buryest thy content, and tender churl makes waste in niggarding, which this word is an unfortunate resembler of a word that we really no longer say in English, particularly me as a white person, but it doesn't have anything to do with the origin of that other word. This means basically stingy, like you're not willing to share. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by the grave in thee. So there's a lot of fairly complicated things, but for this video, really, we want to start with what is basically going on with sonnets and move deeper as we move through them. So this is the heroic couplet where everything is tied together, or the problem is solved, or a final statement is made with respect to the problem. And that is what is happening right here. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by the grave and thee. Again, we have death. You are going to die just as yourself without having done the world this wonderful service of recreating yourself through your son, through your daughter. See you next time on Reading Renaissance, maybe, probably tomorrow.